So hello and welcome to the fourth and final installment of the Mountain Network Series of events. Today, we're going to be revealing the winners of the Mountain Protection Award in partnership with Bally and the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation. The UN Environment Programme has also supported the event for many years now. The webinar is part of the lead up of International Mountain Day, which is next Saturday on the 11th of December. And one of the themes of International Mountain Day is sustainable mountain tourism, which fits in nicely with the MPA. So we weren't able to hold an event last year, so it's super exciting that we're back. We've had 24 submissions from 30 countries, and they represent a range of initiatives, including encouraging youth participation, tackling pollution and climate change, creating sustainable national parks, and spearheading cleanup campaigns and projects focused on women in mountaineering. Now, in a moment, we're going to be learning all about this year's winners and the runner-up prizes as well as the best new initiative. But firstly, a word on the Mountain Protection Award itself, which has now been around for 8 years. The MPA is an international showcase for mountain sustainability projects. It's enabled people to raise finances to build key infrastructures, conduct vital research, and fulfill pending project goals. But as important as that is being able to create a platform where good ideas can be shared across and around the world, and communities can benefit and replicate projects globally. So I would now like to pass over to Peter Muir, President of the UIAA, who would like to say a few introductory words. Peter, over to you.
Hello and welcome to the 2021 Mountain Protection Award ceremony. Last year, as Tarquin said, the award ceremony was unable to be held. And this year we are digital, a media for which we've all become more expert than we would have predicted a couple of years ago. So first, I want to offer my thanks to the applicants, to the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation, and to all of you here today for your patience. I also want to pass along a quick thanks to all the staff and volunteers of the UIAA who make this and all past and future mountain webinars both possible and professional. The webinars are the silver lining in the clouds, I guess. I take this year's ceremony as at least a step towards a return to normal. That is, if normal can be applied to a world racked by pandemic and changing on the ground with climate change, species diversity decline, and habitat loss at unprecedented scales, all of which are no less than existential threats and must be UIAA top priorities. Fortunately, the UIAA has our wonderful Mountain Protection Commission volunteers with all their dedication and guidance to help us on this journey. You will see evidence of their skills and, more importantly, their care in the webinar today. I congratulate them on the successful expansion of the Mountain Protection Award since its start in 2013. I started this morning by highlighting that these can be seen as abnormal times. I believe they are, but it's not my purpose today to rain on the optimism that is the foundation of all the projects considered by the Mountain Protection Award. Indeed, quite the opposite, as I am by nature an optimist. I support my optimism by seeing the normal in the very function of those applicants whose projects underscores today's presentation. I see it as reassuringly normal for individuals and institutions to seek ways to address problems that to many of us might seem insurmountable, but by taking steps, some small, some large, help us find a new way. These are our leaders, these are our visionaries, these are the people and projects of the Mountain Protection Award. In the same way, it is normal that among business, there are those successful and time-honored entities that see their responsibility in leading in responsible ways. They go beyond words and express their help with both financial and moral support. So it is with the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation. The foundation's support looks back on Bally's distinguished tradition, which I must add includes mountaineering products, and looks forward to a better future. Bally Peak Outlook Foundation's partnership with the UIAA has greatly expanded the reach and profile of the Mountain Protection Award. And for that, for the UIAA, offer our profound thanks. But most importantly, Bally's partnership assures the innovators underlying all the Mountain Protection Award projects that the foundation believes in their project, believes in their effort, and believes in their leadership. To that point, Bally Peak Outlook Foundation, the UIAA, and I share in optimism. Ordinarily, a UIAA president might close by congratulating all the Mountain Protection Award applicants. But it seems to me that these times call for more than congratulations. All the people and institutions behind these diverse and wonderful initiatives more deserve our heartfelt thanks for their inspiring work. And from me, a personal message of thanks for keeping me optimistic. Enjoy the ceremony. Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you, Peter. So the first panel is going to be on the nominees for this year's Mountain Protection Award. If I could welcome Carolina Adler, Mary Sanseverino, and Ansgar Fellendorf. Are you all there? Excellent. So let me begin by introducing you more formally. So we've got Carolina Adler, who is the UIAA Mountain Protection Commission President. Mary Sanseverino, you are the UIAA Mountain Protection Commission member. And very early in the morning for you, you were telling us earlier, so thank you for getting up for this. And Ansgar Fellendorf from the United Nations Environment Programme, consultant, mountain and climate change adaptation expert. So a very warm welcome to you all. So Carolina, why don't you kick off and tell us a little bit about the nominees for this year?
Thank you very much, Tarquin, for the warm welcome, and also a great hello from me as well to all of you who are joining us online. Indeed, as was mentioned in the introduction, we received just over 24 projects, 24 of which were in fact selected as part of the Mountain Protection Award platform. And these came from just over 30 countries from around the world, and covering different aspects of the 5 main categories that underpin the Mountain Protection Award itself. And what was important for us to see and recognize is, of course, the conditions under which many of these projects were able to demonstrate implementation, particularly in the mountain context in which they were seeking to make a difference. So this was something that we were looking for, particularly in this case. And one important aspect to also recognize about the Mountain Protection Award this year is that, as you've also mentioned before, this is a combined effort from last year, given that the prize category spans from 2020 to 2021, meaning that we've had to also take into consideration the proposals that came in last year as part of the pool of prize eligible projects. The Mountain Protection Commission itself has been very busy this year, also working with our expert panelists in a virtual format, as it has been the case now for 2 years, to try and find ways to evaluate and find the winning projects for this year. So we're very pleased to see that despite the difficulties and the challenges, we've been able to convene today and be able to recognize some really excellent projects that we're very proud to be recognizing today. Thanks.
Could you give us an example of some of those projects that were submitted, just an idea of the range of different ideas that were submitted?
Many of the projects, in fact, were focusing quite a lot on waste management. That continues to be a particular theme, especially in times of COVID. We've seen quite a lot of documented pressure in many mountain destinations with regards to waste and plastic and other related disposed waste. And so this is something that came up quite prominently. Many projects that went a step further also incorporated education and outreach to communities that are not just within mountaineers, but also communities with local communities, with children, with the youth, and so forth. So that is also something to recognize. And one other aspect that is starting to also emerge within the number of projects that we are receiving is greater considerations for the impacts that we are seeing with regards to climate change. And in particular for the mountain context, this revolves around climate change adaptation specifically. Now that we're seeing some quite significant changes taking place, how does the mountaineering community adapt to that? But at the same time, make sure that our activities do not just contribute to adaptation efforts, but also don't maladapt in that sense, not to contribute to other unsustainable ways of managing mountains. And this is something that we'll be paying particular attention as we come to post-COVID recovery stages as well.
Mary, you were heavily involved as well, weren't you, in the applications phase? What was your feeling on the applications?
Well, I was the way that we handle going through so many applications and going through them in detail is we kind of divide the work up, and then we all come back together, and then we all end up looking over everything. And I was struck. Well, there were a few things that really struck me. One of the projects, Montana Limpa, which means clean mountain, I thought was a fascinating project. It's an app designed to build community around waste management in the mountains in Latin America. I thought that struck me as a really interesting idea. The most wide-ranging one was the Feminist Hiking Collective. That involves a 4-month training program on mountain safety, feminist leadership, economic sustainability in mountains. But the thing is that it is a group of women mountaineers from, oh my goodness, Italy, Nepal, the UK, Germany, Bolivia, Tanzania, Kenya, Argentina, and Chile. So Carolina kind of alluded to this, the span that these projects represent across mountain regions of the world is really, really, really phenomenal.
It sounds like the bar is really high as well. Can you give an idea of the criteria? What does an applicant need to do to win, basically?
Well, that is a tough question. We have a quite a rigorous set of criteria that are laid out in the application process, but I shouldn't say that the process is particularly onerous. It's a step-by-step process, and each component is evaluated. So, for example, the project has to talk about how they manage. So how do you manage a project? They have to talk about who's support, what are the underlying supports for the project. So for example, we need to know that Federation, UIAA Federation members are supporting of the project as well. So you have to get that kind of backup. You have to talk about how your project sort of integrates with your goals. You can say, Carolina alluded to a number of different sort of focus points that you can take. You have to talk specifically about how the project hits those focus points. So it's a pretty, as I say, rigorous process, the way that we go through. And then we go through, our entire commission goes through and scores each of these aspects. So that's in a nutshell. We could do a whole session on how.
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can. It will be very, very exciting to find out who is the winner. But Carolina, back to you. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about where you see the MPA going from here and the future.
That's a very good question. Indeed, there's a lot that we've learned in the past couple of years, not least given the challenges with COVID. One of the things that we would also look to perhaps address in how we package the MPA is to reconsider or perhaps reevaluate the categories that we've set out for the MPA so far. Whether they're still valid, whether they're still relevant, whether they still represent the key challenges that we need to be highlighting with respect to mountains and mountain protection. So this is something that we will look into in the coming year, as well as the extent to which projects have been able to create impact. And I guess this is also something that we will look into seeing how we can evaluate that a little bit better. And the third aspect that I would like to also highlight, and this is something Mary also alluded to, is the links to our member federations, in particular the UIAA member federations, and how to activate and create synergies with many of the projects that many of them are already undertaken on the ground to address particular issues around mountain protection. So we need to be looking for ways to make sure that we create those linkages as well with our members.
Let's bring in Ansgar now. You've been sitting patiently there. Perhaps you could tell us how the UNEP fits into all of this, the United Nations Environment Programme.
Yes, thank you very much, Tarkan. And first of all, it's really an honor to connect and really celebrate all the 24 projects of the UIAA Mountain Protection Award. So the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, where I work in the mountain team, has served on the assessment team. So there's an assessment team of external assessors to the award for the last 4 years. And really every time it has been really inspiring to learn about the impressive work that's being done around the world's mountains, and really see that we're all united by a common passion to protect the mountains we love. So yeah, really great to be part of this important process. So they're really an immense source of inspiration, of like practical steps, of really networks for the work we do in a different setting, but of course with the same goal. And that's so maybe about the goal of UNEP as an organization. We work to tackle the triple planetary crisis, as the United Nations Secretary General calls it. So that's the climate crisis, the nature crisis, like we already heard it from Peter, the biodiversity loss, and the pollution crisis. And of course, mountain ecosystems are a very particular place for all of these issues. And it's great to see the Mountain Protection Award giving really the faces, the voices, the hands, the legs for the issues around this. So maybe just some examples what we do at UNEP to tackle the planetary crisis with a focus on mountains. So for the climate crisis, we work to get the science together to publish and communicate the results, really the latest knowledge. For example, in our flagship gap reports, the emissions gap report, the productions gap report, and the adaptation gap report. So for whoever is interested in that, that's on the website. And then we also collaborate with countries, including mountain countries, of course, to develop adaptation strategies. So how do communities adapt to the climate crisis in mountains? So for example, we will publish solutions booklets that will be available for download at the Adaptation at Altitude website. That's what the program is called. For the nature crisis, one of UNEP's flagship programs is the Vanishing Treasures program, which aims to promote climate-smart wildlife conservation of endangered mountain species and ecosystem-based adaptation. So it's technical terms, but whenever you read it, it hopefully makes sense that we need to adapt with nature and not against it. So that program works with pilot interventions to protect the Royal Bengal tiger in Bhutan. They do really excellent work there. The mountain gorilla in the Virunga Mountains in East Africa, and the snow leopard in Central Asia, the ghost of the mountains. So you can also check out that website also to see some nice footage of the wildlife of mountains. And lastly, the pollution crisis, and we already heard about it from Carolina that a lot of projects tackled that. Well, here, for example, we worked with the UIAA, the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Convention. So that's like the legally binding documents to fight pollution, and Good Arendal to gather information on pollution in mountains. And there was a big survey done together this year, together with the mountaineering community, so mountain guides, to really hear from everyone what they see in the mountains. And unfortunately, we learned that they saw a lot of pollution, especially plastics. And here at UNEP, we work to apply really the source to think approach to find holistic solutions to keep our mountains clean. maybe I'm going to stop here for now.
Thank you, Ansgar. One final question. A lot of the news that we hear on the environment is pretty depressing, and so my question is, can the MPA be a source of hope for us all? And perhaps Mary, you'd like to answer that one.
Well, I think that as I've read through all 24 of these reports, the goals that are being expressed, and not just expressed but met in many of these projects, are really, really not just guiding us forward, but really shining a light on how groups can come together and can make a difference. I was struck. It seems a really, really simple thing, but the British Mountaineering Council, they have their goal. They have this H2O project, and that's hills to ocean, and their goal is to just get the mindset changed of hill walkers and people just going out for walks, that you'll take a picker and you'll take a small bag with you, and you'll just pick up a little bit of litter that you see. That's a really simple, small thing, all the way to much bigger goals. In our own Alpine Club of Canada, Vancouver Island section, of which I am a part, has a very big project, Hishimiwith. And this is a First Nations word, a Nuchalnuith, West Coast First Nation word, and it means gather together. And their goal is to create a place where in the mountains where people, projects, and ideas can gather together. And that's a bigger project. It's a bigger goal. But the steps, the idea that you're going to have people coming together, they're going to have a sort of a common purpose, and they're going to take some steps forward. That in and of itself is, I think, really, really heartening. So we can get together, folks. We've got a tough road ahead, but we're pretty ingenuitive species. We should be able to at least get a handle on this sort of thing.
Mary, that's brilliant. It's great to leave on a wrap up on such an upbeat note as well. So thank you to everyone for that little preview of the nominees, to Mary, Ansgar, and Carolina. We're going to now end this little presentation and move on to the next one, which is a presentation of the Best New Initiative, which was announced in November. I'd like to welcome, if we can bring up Alison Pritchard and Raluca Anna, if you are there. This is an additional prize for a new initiative. The idea of this is to reward a project that is in its early stages and which has potential to grow and develop. And the award is really a way to give encouragement. So welcome, Raluca.
Thank you. Hello, Tarquin.
And to Alison.
Hello.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about this project and what it seeks to try and achieve?
So yes, we've called our project the No Bins Project, but it's not about removing bins. It's about working towards the point where we no longer need them, and I think that's key. And when we thought about it, this is going to involve working with the sort of cafes and restaurants on how they serve food in the mountains, working with the service providers on how the infrastructure is provided here, and also, most importantly, encouraging and engaging tourists in protecting the mountains. So our goal would be that we would remove the bins from the high mountain areas, and that tourists would bring any waste that they had with them down the mountains to the valley floor where we have the infrastructure there. And obviously, definitely not about removing the bins and letting the litter pile up where they used to be.
What inspired you to begin this?
So the idea came from a discussion that Raluca and I had in sort of springtime this year. I'd been to the west coast of France, the Atlantic coast, and noticed that several of the beaches there have removed the bins from the beach, and they have very clear signage to those people who are taking picnics on the beach that you need to bring your waste off, and it really felt like the tourists were being encouraged to look after the beach areas. And I was telling Raluca this, and she mentioned that one of the ski resorts in New Zealand, where she used to live, has implemented a similar idea, where they've removed the bins from the ski areas, and they're looking there to protect wildlife by not having litter in the mountain areas. So that's where we started talking about it, and we thought, well, there must be a lot that we could learn from these projects, and we thought that what we'd really like to do is to commission some research into the results of these and see how successful they've been, what went well, what lessons they learnt. And then from that builds a methodology which we've called the blueprint, which could really be implemented in a resort anywhere, any mountain area, but I mean, potentially any nature area, to encourage tourists to engage in protecting the natural environment.
Raluca, obviously the project is in the early stages, but can you give us a sense of the response so far? When you're discussing it with people, do you feel like that this is something that could grow?
For sure, you're right, it is early ages just yet. So we are at a research study stage. But when we talk to people about our project and we share our ideas with them, they get very interested. Obviously, when you say no bins, it's really counterintuitive, and you don't think that it's probably the best idea to remove bins from the mountains. So at the start of the conversation is always a little bit strange. And then most of the people we speak to will actually listen on and hear us and hear what we want to do behind the scenes to get to that result. So it's interesting. It's a challenging idea, and it definitely catches people's attention.
And who do you need to persuade? Is it the sort of the tourists themselves, or is it the mountain authorities? In terms of getting this idea over that you take your rubbish out with you.
Yeah, so it is really thinking big picture. We need to speak to everyone. It is a very everybody's involved. So this blueprint and this concept is designed to be implemented by everyone. So everyone needs to contribute. We are looking obviously at the end goal of changing mentality, of shifting the mindset of people who go in the mountains and take the rubbish out when they leave. But we wouldn't be able to do this tomorrow. We obviously need to set in place proper infrastructures for this. We need to speak to local authorities, to local communities, to, as Alison was saying, the services that are available there, in ski resorts, for example, especially here in the Chamonix Valley where we live, we see this every day. And it's not the only place. I'm sure throughout the whole Alpine range here in Europe, it is the same thing. It is actually a work that has to be done with everyone. Everybody has to put in a little bit of effort. And obviously our very important goal is to bring awareness to tourists who, even if they don't live here, they do play a role in protecting the area where they are on their holiday. And this is something we see sometimes with our other actions in the valley when we try to approach people to speak to them about different other ecological issues. Let's say they will respond immediately. Oh, I'm not from here. I'm just visiting. So we would like to actually shift that mentality and say, well, it's fine. You are here, and you do play a role while you are here.
Right. And fundamentally, this is an idea that can roll out. As Alison said, if you got the idea, on the beaches of Western France, then in theory, it could roll out to other mountain communities as well.
Absolutely. The idea is to make this blueprint as comprehensive as possible, considering the fact that it will be aimed at a global audience, which means we can't really include everything. However, we will make sure to include ways of reaching out to the right people locally who can help the people who try to implement the project. So we are aiming this at everyone: associations, mountain federations, NGOs, local authorities, the private sector. Many of the ski resorts, for example, are managed privately, right, in the world. So obviously we would like everyone to be able to benefit from it and take and pick and choose what is important to them and what applies to them locally.
Thank you. Alison, do you want to say a final word?
Only a huge thank you to the UIAA Mountain Protection Award. We're so excited to have been recognised at this early stage, and it means so much to us. We can't wait to take this forwards. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. And we look forward to hearing more of your work. And of course, further information on Zero Déchet is available on the website, the UIAA.org. So goodbye to you two. Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Thank
you. Thank you. Bye.
And we can now bring on the next presentation, which is the runner-up of the Mountain Protection Award, which was revealed last week online, which is the McKillicuddy Reeks Access Project. And to tell us all about that is Patricia Dean. Patricia.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Tarquin. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So, yes, you're the project manager, aren't you, of this project? Perhaps you could just tell us what it's all about.
Okay, so the McGillicuddy Reeks here in Ireland, you can see a little picture there in the background. Unusual in the situation, I suppose, in an international context. Ireland is a little bit different. All the mountains are actually privately owned here in Ireland. So a lot of what we're doing depends on the goodwill of the landowners. So that's quite a challenge because you need to maintain that goodwill. And there's a lot of obviously vested interest then as well, of course, because you have all of the land is designated. So it's protected under European legislation. It's a special area of conservation. So, you know, that's making it complicated. Huge numbers of recreational visitors because the McGillicuddy Reeks Carranthul is Ireland's highest mountain. So people would say, yeah, it's not a big deal. It's a small mountain. It's only 1,040 meters. But the challenge of the mountain here, and this mountain range in particular, is you can get 4 seasons of weather in one day. So a lot of people, because it's not particularly high mountain, they kind of underestimate the challenge of climbing it. So that's very challenging. So it obviously puts a lot of strain then on the rescue and emergency services. But I suppose first and foremost, our priority is always to the landowners, because the terrain, trying to make their livelihood from the mountain, because it's obviously farmed land, the climate, like I said, you can get four seasons in one day. Succession issues, we have a challenge now in our hands where we very few young farmers getting involved in farming. And we obviously know that if you don't continue to manage this land, you could look at issues around wildfire, you know, if you don't get the grazing balance correct. And again, it's very hard to make a living from this because some people would consider it not very productive. You know, you wouldn't get the same level of return financially. So that's really, really challenging. So we were kind of thinking, okay, this is a lot to take on, but you know, if we bring everyone around the table, we can do it. And obviously, like I mentioned, recreation, that is having a big impact. So we have to look at the recreation as well. So continuing doing trail restoration works. But because we're in designated land, we need to work with a whole load of NGOs as well, a whole load of government departments, as well as our tourism bodies, because they're obviously promoting the region. So you're trying to strike a balance all of the time. So it's interesting, at least, to say at the very least, yeah.
Are landowners in Ireland generally supportive of tourism and mountain access?
They are generally, Tarquin, they're very good. I mean, a lot of the time what they want is respect. So when you meet a landowner, that you actually acknowledge them and you say hello to them, you know. And I mean, we've had some really interesting, you know, things that have happened on the mountain. So we were there one day doing patchwork, myself and a gang of the guys, and a French visitor stopped. There was 2 guys walking in that were French, and they stopped and they said, "What are you doing?" And as quick as lightning, our farmer looked at me, he looked back at them, he said, "We're after burying a fella for asking too many questions." So what makes it special is it's the people, Tarquin, that you find in this place. It's not just the place itself. It's also the character. So they're very open, they're very warming, but it's just a lot of the time, it's just basic respect. So, you know, once you kind of adhere to the few little things that they'd ask you to adhere to, stay on the path, don't bring your dog. The mountain isn't suitable, you know, to bring your dog on. And that can be challenging because it's very different to our near neighbours, you know, you are allowed to have your dog with you if you keep them under control. So again, it's just try to, you know, work with the landowners all of the time.
I was going to say, what are the kind of the key concerns of the landowners? Is it damage to the land? Is it their livestock and these sorts of topics?
Absolutely, yeah, they are. They're really concerned because, again, when you are looking at, a growing, increasing population of people going out, visiting these areas for the first time, you don't always see that responsible access. You would see people not knowing where they're going, not having very basic skills, of navigation. There's huge commercial interest, obviously, around guiding as well, in the mountains. So it's just trying to strike the balance, because I think financially the landowners kind of feel, well, there's nothing coming back to us, but everyone else is benefiting from our land. So like I said, it's just balance. So part of our project is trying to get a return back to the farmers and trying to get them, I suppose, awareness and training, Tarquin. Like when we say the land is designated, a lot of that is the first time since our project started. What is the land protected for? They don't know what habitats or species are there. The same with a lot of the visitors. They're going into areas where we would have, birds, and they can't nest now because, they're being impacted. So awareness and training. And again, that goes down to the previous project, the no bins, responsibility, responsible access. We all assume that everyone's responsible, but we know in reality that doesn't always happen. And a lot of the time, it's the few that will kind of mess it up for everybody else. So awareness, guys, look, it is private land, and please stay on the track, take home your rubbish. Thankfully, and I'll touch wood as I say this, we have no major issue at all with litter or waste in the mountains. People are generally exceptionally good here. They leave a little monuments on the top, all right, when they reach the summit, but they get removed pretty quickly. So that's, it's just like, again, training and awareness, because 9 times out of 10 people don't set out to cause any harm. It's just that they're just not aware,
And so just to describe the actual project that you're doing, it's essentially one of conversation, of just having a dialogue with the landowners and all the different interested parties. Is that the essence of the work?
That was the initial stages. We established the Mountain Access Forum, and then that was bringing everybody around the table. So it was bringing all the bodies that I mentioned, Leave No Trace, the landowners, the local communities. The Department of Rural and Community Development actually said to us, we want access to Ireland's highest mountain, but we said, we can't do this unless the landowners are at the table. So we created this structure, and then arising from that structure, we applied for a European Innovation Partnership project. Well, that's a mouthful and a half. So that's a locally led project. So it's the bottom up approach. So we said then we'd look at the land, and we're trying to improve the condition of the habitats. So a lot of the time you will have an impact from recreation. You'll also have an impact from overgrazing. So what we're doing is trying to improve the condition of those annex habitats, those European habitats. And it could be dealing with things like rhododendron ponticum. That's here and it's starting to spread. It's an invasive species, beautiful flower. And everyone tells me, oh, it's beautiful. Why are you getting rid of it? Because it's an invasive. It will take over. It will destroy all before and after it. So our EIP project that's funded by the Department of Agriculture under the Rural Development Programme, it came out of the original work of the forum, that collaboration, bringing everyone around the table. The EIP wouldn't have happened if it were not for the forum, and we got the trust, I suppose, Tarquin, of the landowners, because they were sitting at the table. We built up relationships with them. Like I often joke, with the farmers, if I asked them to stand on their heads for 10 minutes in the corner of a room, they'd probably do it for me, because they're like, Ash, we kind of know Trish now, and you sit down and you have lots of cups of tea, but they'd give you the shirt off their back. So that relationship building and that trust, that's really critically important,
Lots of tea drinking. I'm sure that's something that other mountain communities, that is applicable across all mountain communities. And I suppose that my final question is, because we always talk about here the lessons that other areas can take. So would you have any advice or tips or for anyone else out there struggling or having similar issues with landowner concerns?
I would say come to another area, come visit. You will take away such a sense of enthusiasm, and you'll see what can be done. And a lot of it, Tarquin, is down to basic dialogue. You mightn't always agree with the person sitting across the table. And some of our early meetings were very contentious. There was landowners telling guides, sure, you're making thousands. And, there was real angst, and there was a suspicion around people's motivation. But bringing everyone to the table, you don't always agree, but you listen. So listening is so, so important. And quick wins, I would say as well. Like I mentioned, dogs at the outset, that was a major concern for the landowners. They had huge problems with sheep being killed on the mountains. So we said, okay, well, look, we will try keeping dogs on a lead. We'll ask people to do that. It didn't work. So then we said, okay, we'll go with no dogs. We're getting the message out then to the visitors. why we don't need dogs. It's not that we hate dogs. We all love dogs, but this area is not suitable to bring your dog. And then instead of having all stick and no carrot, you can't bring your dog here, but nearby, these are the areas you can go to. So it's about giving options. So I'd say anyone who wants to come to visit, we'd be delighted to bring you up the mountain and meet some of these amazing farmers and everybody else that we work with, because this has just been huge for us. It really has. And hopefully it'll open the eyes of our funders maybe to more collaboration and the importance of these bottom-up approaches, because sometimes, you know, you can instill something in, but it doesn't always work. Every area of land is very different. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for telling us all about it. And definitely, it sounds like it would be fun to come over, do lots of mountain climbing and drinking tea, and lots of Irish humour as well. And
maybe a bit more besides tea.
Good. Well, thank you. We'll say goodbye to you now.
Thanks a million.
And we'll move on to our next discussion project, which I'd now like to take the opportunity to welcome our partner at the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation, who've been doing great work supporting projects in the mountains, and particularly around the world's 8,000 meter mountains. And this video will tell us more about it.
Sherpas quite literally draw their identity from the mountains. Having lived here for so many centuries, even our genetic code is altered. So the mountains are a part of us, we are a part of the mountains. In 2019, Bally and ourselves, we partnered up and we cleaned from base camp to the summit of Mount Everest. In 2020, we came up with the idea to clean up all the base camps of all the 8,000 meter mountains in Nepal.
टुरिस्ट नै नआएपछि ट्रेकिङ एक्सपिडिसन सेवा सबै ठप्प भयो। यस्तो परिस्थितिमा पनि बालीले सफाई अभियान चलाएकोमा हामीले सोचे जस्तो नभए पनि एउटा राम्रो काम गर्ने अवसर पाएको छौं।
Everest is more crowded and dirtier than it was ever before. I definitely believe we can always find a balance between economic activities, tourism, and the environment.
For the Sherpa people, the mountains are the abodes of the gods, and spiritual places have to be kept pure.
While the whole world is in lockdown, I think it's nice for them to know that there are others like us out here in the middle of nowhere cleaning up our planet. I think there would be many people who take inspiration, or at least get some motivation, and would like to do the same as soon as this crisis is over.
So I would now like to extend a very warm welcome to Nicola Girotto, CEO of Bally and Chairman of the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation Board of Directors, as well as Dawa Stephen Sherpa, who's a Bally Peak Outlook Foundation board member, as well as expedition leader, CEO of Asian Trekking and leader of the Eco Everest expeditions. Welcome to you both. I will let you crack on.
Hi, Tarquin. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for welcoming us, welcoming me. It's obviously a great pleasure to be here with you today, and an honor to support the Mountain Protection Award. I really hope that you enjoyed, as I did, the short film, which highlights the first phase of the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation endeavor to clean all 8 base camps of the 8,000 meters mountains in the Himalayas. This was a 2 years mission, which Dawa and his team have just completed, cleaning Everest base camp for the third time, alongside the 7 other base camps. To date, our Himalaya cleanup expeditions have collected over 7 tons of waste. This year, Bally, the Bally brand, is celebrating 170 years of history, and during these 170 years, as a Swiss brand, the connection with mountain environment has been extremely tight, and is still today. So these are our origins. Across its history, Bally has been supporting multiple expeditions in the Swiss Alps, but also in the Andes and in Himalaya. We all remember that Tenzing Norgay in 1953 was wearing Bally reindeer boots on the first summiting of the Everest. So this alpine origin of Bally are really the backbone of the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation. And the program has grown and evolved organically since Dawa led the first expedition to Everest in 2019, where he and his team cleansed from base camp to its peak, removing 2 tons of waste. Since then, we established the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation to consolidate this commitment, which is a long-term commitment to our community. But also we want to expand our reach. So we feel that this is really our mission as the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation, to support communities in safeguarding mountain environments worldwide, through community-led projects. This is very important for us to partner with communities through projects. So what do we want to do? We want to drive awareness around the devastating impact of climate change on mountains, and more importantly, on their communities. So we are focusing also on building education around responsible tourism globally, and we use the reach of Bally as a brand, but also on the ground through partnerships with local communities. Alongside mountain protection, community engagement is a very important part of what we do. For example, we support the Tenzing Norgay Foundation through our long-standing relationship with the family, and Tenzing Sant Jamling in particular, to facilitate local scholarships and education programs to increase opportunities for school children. Mountain play special roles in Bally's heritage, and the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation solidifies this long-term commitment. As a CEO, I'm deeply committed to the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation. As a brand, we have responsibility to provide solutions to climate crisis. Obviously, first and foremost, improving as a brand our own supply chain and operations. This is our duty, but also supporting and helping communities. And this is the objective of the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation, to preserve these extreme locations, which are quite often forgotten. And this can be done only through partnership. So this is why it's fundamental for us to support localized projects, such as those brought to us by the UIAA Mountain Protection Award, which deliver impactful solutions that will protect and inspire future generations. So now I will let Dawa share more about the 8x8,000 meter initiative undertaken during the pandemic. So it has been definitively a challenge for him and his team. And I just would like to reiterate that the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation is extremely proud to support the Mountain Protection Award with its commitment to mobilizing preservation and educational activities in mountain communities around the world. So again, thank you so much. And before leaving it to Dawa, a huge thank you to you, Dawa, and to your team, and a huge thank you and congratulations to this year's winners and all the nominees for all these very, very inspiring projects that you are presenting today. So thank you so much, and I leave it to you, Dawa.
Thank you, Nicola. First of all, I'm so happy here to see that Bally and UIAA have partnered with the MPA. Both the UIAA and Bally are very close to my heart. I know many of you in the UIAA personally. Many of you know my father, so it's just so nice that everything's come together. So that aside, thank you, Nicola, for giving that really good intro about what we've been doing. In 2019, together with Bally, we cleaned up to the summit, as Nicola mentioned. And at that time, we learned something. We actually found out something very interesting, which was that once the climbers have left, then it's much easier to clean the base camp, because then we had unobstructed access to all of base camp. And in fact, we cleaned up a lot more than I had done in the past. And so that was a really good lesson. And we wanted to carry that further and say, we should actually be cleaning not when all the climbers are there, but once the climbers have left, because then we can really have an impact. We can go wherever we want, and we don't have to step on anybody's toes. So the idea of cleaning all the 8,000 meter base camps was always in my heart. But then we then had a modus operandi, and we knew that we could get it done. And then of course COVID happened, and all of a sudden, we were stuck in this place where, wow, we're not going to be able to do this with all the travel restrictions, with all the health and safety, our own safety and the safety of villagers. But at the same time, there were no climbers, there were no tourists, there were no trekkers up there. So that was exactly the sort of scenario we wanted, to go to these base camps when nobody was there, and we could clean it really thoroughly. So unfortunately, when COVID first broke out, we were not able to go in the spring, and we had to wait until the post-monsoon, but pulling a few strings here and there, and then we finally got permissions to travel. We went to the eastern part of Nepal. We've split it up into two phases in 2020 and in 2021. And in 2020, we looked at doing the eastern part of Nepal, and that includes Everest, Choyu, Lhotse, and Makalu. And because we were not able to go to the villages, we had to find an alternative path to get to those base camps. So rather than going down valley, taking a bus and then going to the base camps, we actually had to go over the big passes. And so that was one of the biggest challenges, to find a path to go through there. And we spent 47 days last year going over 470 or 400, how many was it? 450 kilometers across the mountains and cleaning up the base camps. And this year, things weren't that much better in the spring season. As you all know, Nepal and India suffered a lot with the COVID again. And so we had to employ the same idea of going up and staying away from the settlements, so that we're not a risk to the villagers, and of course our guys are not at risk either. And so the COVID was one of the biggest things that made this project so difficult. But at the end of the day, it was anything that's worth doing is going to be hard. This year as well, we had a lot of weather issues to deal with, and especially, I don't know if you've been following the mountaineering on Everest and other peaks. In May, we actually had two cyclones in a span of 10 days. Two cyclones. In my experience as a climber, I've never seen that before, and neither have a lot of other people, right? But anyways, we got it done, and this is now fresh off the press, more or less. Even Nicola doesn't know, we've finished our third cleanup now. The last cleanup of Everest Base Camp has been done. It's just finished 2 days ago, and all the garbage is now being brought down to Namche Bazaar. So that means that our project is in the next couple of days is going to be coming to a complete a successful completion. Really great to announce that. And yeah, over 7,000 kilos cleaned up till now. Not more than 915 kilometers climbed and hiked through the Himalayas by my team doing this. And, it's been a fantastic experience. Some of the things that I do want to mention is that, I want to leave you guys with an analogy from last year. When we went in October last year to the Makalu region, nobody had been there for over a year. No trekkers, no tourists, nobody had been there. And what was normally a very clear trail was completely covered in grass. We could not find our way. We really got lost in certain places. We had to find the trail again because nobody had been there. And what really struck me was that the planet does have an ability to heal itself. That if we humans aren't there, the planet is able to heal itself. The real trick is to make sure that we don't make the planet sick and coexist with it. And that, I think, is the real thing, that is the real objective that we should all have. And for that, I want to thank every one of the participants here, all the nominees, everybody who's applied. And I want to congratulate you for all the work that you're doing wherever you are in the world. And I want to say, keep going, because the planet needs us, our mountains need us more than ever before. So, strength to you all, and let's keep this going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawa, and amazing work that you've done. If you're still there, quick question: what happens to the trash once you get it to Namche Bazaar? Where does it go from there?
So every mountain has its own designated authority. So the Everest region has the Sagarmatha National Park, and specifically the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. So we hand over the garbage to them. And so that's Everest, that's Cho-Oyu and Lhotse garbage. The Makalu garbage goes to the Makalu National Park. In the Annapurna region, it goes to the Annapurna Conservation Area. Similarly, the Kanchenjunga garbage goes to the Kanchenjunga Conservation Area. So we hand it over to the national park or the authorized body, and then they will get rid of it. Things like batteries or anything toxic, we'll bring it back to Kathmandu, but anything that is burnable or biodegradable gets handed over to them.
Thank you. Well, fantastic work, and really inspiring for everyone watching. So thank you to you both, Dawa Stephen Sherpa and Nicholas Girotto from Bally, chairman of the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation Board of Directors. Thank you. So now to the highlight of the day, which is where we get to announce this year's winner of the MPA, the Mountain Protection Award. So it's now in its, we've got our 8th recipient of the International Award since 2013. And a reminder that the cash prize is a not inconsiderable €10,000, thanks, of course, to the gracious support of the Bally Peak Outlook Foundation. So who is going to win? To tell you, I'm going to pass you over once again to Peter Muir.
I don't seem to be able to start my video, Carol or Stephanie. It says the host has stopped it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Hello again. Thank you, Tarquin. So I'll begin by saying that you've heard all the tremendous imagination and innovation of the applicants. You've heard about all the work that's been done by the evaluators, and you've heard about the great contributions from Bally. And it's not lost on me that one of the roles of the president gets to be to announce the winner after all those people have done the work. So I want you to know that I'm very conscious of that role, and it's an honor to do so. And I'm pleased this year to congratulate, as the winner of the Mountain Protection Award, the Giroparci Nature Trail Project, a Foundation Grand Paradise project of Italy. Now I'll turn it over to Carolina, and she'll offer UIAA congratulations.
Thank you very much, Peter, and congratulations to the winners. We are very proud to be able to recognize a project that takes into consideration a very important aspect of education and engaging the young communities as well to be a part of how we change and transform our relationship with the mountains. A sincere thanks from us at the Mountain Protection Commission. It's been an honor for us to be a part of the MPA for the past 2 years for this particular edition. and our external reviewers as well, who have been very helpful in making sure that there was a rigorous process followed. And last but not least, certainly to Bally, our sponsors, this has been a great honor for us also to work with you with this edition of the MPA. Thank you, and congratulations to the winners once again.
So we're now going to play a short video which explains more about the project.
Good afternoon from Gran Paradiso National Park in Italy. We are deeply honored and very excited to receive from UIAA this important award. The idea of Giroparchi Nature Trail started in 2011 within the project Giroparchi. Our project is addressed to young generation and has two main goals. On one side, to increase their awareness of the exceptional natural heritage of the Gran Paradiso National Park, understanding its fragility and the importance of a sustainable approach. On the other side, to improve their English in order to communicate Gran Paradiso values worldwide. The High Altitude Week of Giroparchi Nature Trail is an unforgettable experience for our teenagers, full of adventure, hiking, climbing, funny outdoor games, and also sleeping in the alpine huts of the Gran Paradiso valleys. We were very touched by the words that UIAA spent for our project, and particularly by 4 concepts in which we strongly believe: sharing knowledge, dive into the natural world of the oldest national park in Italy, enhance teams' personal development, and foster stewardship and sustainability values. We are extremely glad to share this success with all the people who contributed to our project. We would like to thank in particular Gran Paradiso National Park and the Alpine Convention for their support. Above all, thanks to the all people who, with their passion and energy, contributed to the success of this initiative. Thanks in particular to Davide D'Acunto, Linda Colling, and all the teachers of the English Center, and my great team in Fondazione Gran Paradiso. In these 10 years, we met more than 200 teenagers and more than 400 parents that trust in us. Thanks to this award, we will organize a special reunion with all of them to celebrate our mountains together. So, thanks again for this important recognition to UIAA.
So I would now like to extend a very warm welcome to Luisa Guillermo, Director of the Fondazione Gran Paradiso. Luisa, you must be very pleased. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for us, an honor, and we are so glad for this recognition. Thank you.
What else can you tell us beyond what we just saw in the video about the project, about exactly the kind of things that you're doing?
Yes, so Giroparchi Nature Trail is dedicated to youngest generation, to bring them closer to mountains. This is our goal. They can experience common challenges, adventure, friendship, and they can improve their knowledge of nature and their ability to communicate the mountain world in English. So what we try to do with this project is to grow future generation of mountain lovers. And this important success, this important award brings us motivation to continue to strengthen the knowledge of our mountains, in particular Aosta Valley Mountains, and in particular this mountain, Gran Paradiso Peak.
And are these children, do they already have some experience of the outdoors, or in some cases, is this their sort of first time experiencing the mountains?
It depends. We open our Giroparchi Nature Trail to everybody. So sometimes there are local people that has already a great passion for mountains, and sometimes there are people that for the first time with other friends approach mountains. So it's an incredible experience for both of them.
And what would you say are the issues unique to the Aosta Valley?
The Aosta Valley is a region with an average elevation of 2,000 meters. So it's incredible because we have all 4,000 meters inside the Aosta Valley in Italy. So Mont Blanc, Matterhorn, Montrose and Gran Paradiso. So this is for sure unique. And then Gran Paradiso will celebrate next year 100 years of conservation. So it's the oldest park in Italy. And for this reason is an area so important for nature conservation and for mountains.
And what are your plans for 2022, 2023?
Yes, our plans are to organize a new Giroparchi Nature Trail that will celebrate this anniversary, so 100th anniversary of Gran Paradiso National Park and 10th anniversary of Giroparchi Nature Trail. So it will be an important year next year. And we will organize the trail on this topic, how important is conservation and the long conservation in an area. This will be the topic. And then we will organize, thanks to the award, a great reunion with all participants and all organizers that spent energy in these 10 years. Thank you to you.
Well, thank you to you, and congratulations again from all of us at the UIAA. Brilliant work, and we look forward to hearing more about the project as you grow and develop. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Well, this is now getting to the part where we wrap up for the evening, for the day, wherever you are, the morning even. So Louisa, thank you. We'll say goodbye to you. A reminder that the 2022 MPA edition will accept applications from March the 1st next year. Going forward, we'd very much like to encourage a even greater number of applications from less developed parts of the world. So wherever you are, feel free to apply. Again, thanks to and congratulations to all the nominees of 2020-2021 MPA. Keep up the good work in protecting our mountain areas. So this is sadly the last UIAA event of the year. But from next month, we've got the World Ice Climbing Tour kicking off with events in Korea, Switzerland, and also in Russia in the beginning of March. So do stay tuned and look out for that. And apart from that, we'll say goodbye from me, and we'll leave you with a little video teaser of the season. So thank you so much to everyone on the MPA Award and to everyone watching. Goodbye.